Started streaming. Let's do a check. Audio check, check 1, 2. Audio looks good. Let's wait for that video on YouTube to pop up. Make sure that looks good. Looks like YouTube video is good. And we are set to go. Good morning. This is coding stream. It's Friday, October 27th, 2023. Coding stream. And that was actually a YouTube comment from earlier. That was actually a pretty good comment. I might leave that up and come back to that. But the war news keeps coming out. What was the latest war news from this morning? What was the latest? Guys, start posting your questions up in Discord as well, and I'll start putting them in the question queue here. What was the latest war news? I didn't see. Yes, we can look at that code. Let me download it. Download Clear BA. That's the one you're looking at, Clear BA. Let's take a look at this. Let me go back down to you. Okay, I've got Clear BA. What would you like to look at with this?
Hello, are you right? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, hey.
Right. Hey. Basically, this code I created with the help of some AI, blah, blah, blah. And I know you don't like the stuff, but anyway, I did create it. However, it does work, but not all the time. Basically, clearing the volume, the bid and ask, been traded every 1, 2, 3, 4, and pause for like a second or two. I don't know why it does that. That's the first issue with it. The second issue with it is I cannot go farther than 999 or 950 millisecond. So I'm not
Okay.
sure why.
Let me walk through this. It's not super long, so let's just walk through it together because I've never looked at this
Thank you.
before. And we'll walk through first, and I'll make a first pass, understand what is trying to be accomplished, and then we'll go into the individual questions about it. So up here at the top, we've got our DLL name. This is going to be called reset. Recent bid ask volume. Can you guys see this okay? Is this coming over okay?
Yeah, on Discord, yeah.
On Discord,
We're good.
great. So at the top of your hook function, we've got a date time variable called last reset time. You're declaring here. We've got looks like 2 inputs. One of them is for a reset interval in milliseconds, and the second one is for like a toggle of enabling, disabling reset. Inside our SC defaults code block, which sets all of the defaults for a study. When you first load it up, you are setting the graph name, you're saying that it's going to be in the main price region, and it's going to update at either whichever is quicker between the most recent tick that came in of data or the chart update interval. So this is the fastest way to have your study update when this is set to true or 1. Over here we are setting a name for this input. We're setting a default of 800 milliseconds for that. And then over here we're setting a name for the second input, which is a toggle, and you're setting it as enabled by default. So that's the default code block. Coming down over here, we have a code block which is detecting if we are on a full recalculation. And inside here, we have initial reset at the start. And it's asking the input, do we have this study enabled? And if we do have it enabled, then you want to run the clear recent bid ask volume. That's part of the exposed ACSIL API. And then you are setting last reset time to whatever the current time is. And then down here, you're grabbing the value of the interval, which is defaulted to 800 milliseconds. So this is going to be 800 unless it's changed in the settings. And you're getting the current date time, and then you're getting the elapsed date time since the last reset time. And then what you're saying is a little conditional here where you're evaluating whether the elapsed time, which is an SC datetime object, which you are using as essentially a difference between the current time and when you last reset it, is that elapsed time in milliseconds greater than or equal to the interval, or are we in a full recalculation? So if we're in a full recalculation, go to here, or if we have elapsed the interval time, go to here as well. And then we have another check here for whether or not the um, the toggle is enabled to run the study, and then we're clearing those recent bid ask volumes and resetting the last reset time. Okay, so I just walked through the entire study. It's 50 lines long, and I see a couple of things that might be contributing to this not working as expected. Let's go ahead. Let me actually put this over here and put this over here. Can I do this? There we go. Okay. So here's this is actually good for everybody to review. This is a pretty good question, and something that most people who are building studies for Sierra are going to actually run into. So your study, your Sierra chart study, let me take the background out of that box. Your Sierra chart study, your Sierra chart study is executed either at the chart update interval. So that's where's my Google chart? That's the wrong one. I want to pull up the, is it this guy? No. This guy? Yeah. Ooh, Meta's doing something. We'll look at that later. But if you go to chart, menu, settings, and then there's where is it? Is it chart data? Performance? Where is update
Depth
interval?
of market, I think.
Chart update interval in milliseconds. Where is it? Which one is it? Display. It's under the display tab here. So this guy right here, you see this setting? This is something you can set individually on each chart, or you can use 0, which is the global setting. There's a global version of this that you can set as well. And what that's basically saying is that I want the chart to update no less frequently than 50 milliseconds. In other words, if the chart has not updated in 50 milliseconds or longer, update the chart. So coming back to here, your study is getting executed on either that chart update interval or on incoming data, when incoming data is coming in. So like we're looking at Meta or whatever the ticker was, as new prices get executed, that's going to go ahead and update that as well, and run your study. So over here, your study is getting run over and over, and then where were we? Reset interval. You have a variable called, where did she go? Last reset time, which you're declaring up here at the top. So I'm going to put last reset time here. I'm going to make it a different color so it's a little bit easier to see. And so what's happening right now is that this variable at the top of your study on the first run is going into memory. This is memory. And it's creating a variable called last reset time, which is an SC datetime object. And at the start of your run, this is essentially uninitialized. It's essentially null. It's not initialized to anything. It's just declared. There is a space of memory declaring this variable. It's not set to anything. You can see it's not set to anything because there's no equal sign on the right hand side of it. It's just saying, hey, we got a variable called last reset time. And so the scope of this variable, the existence and persistence of this variable will continue until right here. At which point, when you get to the bottom of your study, right here, the study is done running, and this gets trashed. Which means that the next time there's a chart update interval in 50 milliseconds, or incoming data, you are redeclaring another variable called last reset time and setting it to null. Which means in here, when you're looking at a comparison, right here for your elapsed time, you will always have this be blank or 0, essentially, or possibly even some unexpected value, because you are not persisting this forward between runs on your study. Does that make sense? Is everyone still following me with what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the scope of
So
this is local. It's a local scope. So local scope.
so it's useless basically. This piece of code is useless. There's no news.
Yeah, I won't say I won't. I mean, in the sense, it's not doing what you're trying to accomplish with it. Yes, that's what I would say. It's not accomplishing what you're trying to. The solution here is to use Sierra Chart's built-in persistent memory, or they call them persistent variables. That's the solution here. And what persistent variables does is it creates a spot of memory, persistent memory, and this memory here, unlike this local scope memory, which your study is using, this memory here, it does exist between calls to your study. It will remember between, even though you get down to the bottom of here, if you store this in persistent memory, this will continue to remain. Let me bring it over here. This will continue to live here. It will not get lost, unlike the local scope, which will be destroyed at the end of the function call.
So we'll get value every time we finish the studies. We'll get more value every time.
Correct.
So we'll
So
carry value.
it will
Okay, got it.
persist. It will remember, if you will. Yeah, it will
Okay.
persist. It will remember. So, what you really want to do is you want to declare a persistent variable for this last reset time rather than having it be on the local scope. And the way we do that is using the persist. Let me pull up the documentation on this just so that when people are watching on YouTube later, um, or when you're reviewing this on how to implement it, get persistent integer. Let me bring this down here. So you can see I'm on the functions, ACSIL member functions site or page of the documentation on Sierra Chart, and there's get persistent integer. So I'm going to click into this guy, and what I see is get persistent integer. It actually has no description here, which is not not useful at all. Why do none of these have? Oh, there's a separate piece of documentation. Persistent variable functions for chart studies. This is the documentation, and it applies to every single one of those um, get persistent integer, get persistent pointer, get persistent string, get persistent datetime, etc., etc., etc. This blurb here applies to every single one of them. And basically, what this is saying is what we just drew out on the chart, which is if you want to remember something um, on the next run of your study, you need to store it into persistent memory. So let's go ahead and do that and show how that's done. So because last reset time is an integer, we had it last reset time, right? That's what you had declared up at the top, if I remember, right? Oh, no, it was an SC date time. My bad. It was an SC date time. Last reset time. So it's up here. So we're going to want to use the get persistent SC datetime and get persistent and set persistent SC datetime. Actually, I don't think we need to use that set persistent SC datetime at all. But what we want to do is we want to use that sc.get persistent SC datetime function. And let me just double check the function structure, where is get persistent? Get persistent SC date time. It takes just one argument, an integer of a key. So I think you can have, I don't know, 99 or something of these. So we're going to just use 0. We're going to use the key of 0, which is going to be the first one. And so what that's doing is it is actually, and we need to make one more change. Rather than setting the variable SC datetime last reset time to this, we actually want to put an ampersand here. And let me go ahead and change this to code so it's a little bit easier to read. We want to put this ampersand in here because we are not actually setting the variable, the SC datetime variable, to this value. We are setting the address. That's what the ampersand is implying. We're pointing at the address of this variable. So if you can think of all these variables in persistent memory as little mailboxes, and this is mailbox 1, and this is mailbox 2, and this is mailbox 3, etc., etc., etc. What this function is doing for when you grab key 0, it's saying, hey, get me that mailbox, and it's taking that address and telling this variable to point to the address of that mailbox, which happens to be your variable last reset time. And so now what we can do after we do that, at the top of our function, we can say last reset time is equal to, get current datetime, or what is the name of the function? I don't remember exactly. Get current datetime, this guy right here. So you can say get current datetime. And what that does, because this variable actually lives in this persistent memory, it's not actually declared here. You did not declare it here. You pointed this mailbox address, if you will, to this variable. So this variable doesn't live on the local stack, it lives over here. And so what you're doing when you store this is you're actually storing the current datetime right here. Right here is where that gets stored, the current datetime. Which means that when you get to the bottom of your function, and then you have another incoming data or chart interval which calls your function again, it's going to come up here to the top, say, hey, I want to declare a variable, and I want to grab the address that is mailbox 1, and that's what I want to point this variable to, and whatever's existing in there already from the prior run is what I want to set last reset time to, which will then allow you down here to have a value sitting in here that you can then use for this comparison. I just went off on a lot of stuff there, so tell me,
Yeah, I understood. Yeah. It's keeping the last value,
mm-hmm,
and the next time the code run again, it will ask for the same values were stored on the memories.
exactly,
Yeah, got
exactly,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So that's the difference between these two, the
That is the
local and
difference.
the
Correct.
persistent memory.
Exactly. When you declare a local variable into my local favorite number equals 3, that's going to be living over here. And when your study gets to the bottom, that gets blown away, and then it gets declared and reinitialized at the next run after a chart update interval or incoming data. It gets redeclared. So this is good for things like things that you don't need to remember, on the next run. But if you're trying to build something where you're trying to remember, like you are here with this last reset time, this will not work for you because it's going to be reset every single run. What you need to do is use that persistent memory so that you can remember those things. And we can go in here and say you could reorganize this. You could make other changes here to accomplish this differently. You don't absolutely need to use an SC datetime. There's an even more efficient way. This is kind of what's the term? There's an American phrase for breaking. I don't remember what the term is, but it's like making a big deal out of nothing. But you could essentially do something like this: integer milliseconds since last reset. Instead of declaring an SC date time object where you store the date, which is a more complex, larger object, you could store just an integer of the number of milliseconds since the last reset. and then use that to compare, and then you have even less memory being used here. This is just, I'm finding like small things to optimize, but that's not necessary. Oh, and it should
So,
also
so
be said,
sorry.
yeah, yeah,
So what you're saying is internally will count how millisecond after the last reset. Is that what you're trying to
if
say?
you,
Instead of using the function of date and time from CR
yeah,
function.
you could build it that way. This is not wrong.
Oh,
What you did here is not wrong. You did not do anything wrong here. I'm more of saying that if you wanted to build it a different way, you could build it out saying, hey, milliseconds since last reset, um, or what you could do. You know what? Actually, here's another one. Um, let me last reset time in milliseconds. That's another way you could do it. You could convert
hmm.
this SC datetime using the get as milliseconds function into milliseconds, and then instead of storing a structure of SC datetime, which is it's a large structure, right? It's got a bunch of um, like it's its own structure. It's a class. It has member functions. It has a lot of different. The footprint size of an SC datetime object in memory is significantly larger relative to the size of an integer, which is what 8 bytes, 8 bits. Sorry, 1 byte. Um, so this is a significantly smaller uh, piece of information to store on the hardware. Again, I'm nitpicking here at very like
Yeah,
tiny
makes sense.
things.
Makes sense.
But if an integer is the size of an ant, this is the integer, then this is the size of like a skyscraper in
Wow, that's
terms of
big.
in terms of relative size. So when you're building out larger systems, I don't think it matters for this case. Like you're not going to see a performance difference. This
It's
is
like you
more of
get a
like a
bulldozer to clean your garden.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more of bringing it up for, you're trying to build out systems, you're trying to use best practices, et cetera, et cetera. If you want a smaller memory footprint, you don't actually need to store the SC datetime. You can take that current, what is it? Get current datetime, convert it into the millisecond value of that, and then store it as an integer, which is taking up this much size, the size of an ant versus the size of a skyscraper. Um, Again, this is nitpicking at this point, but you guys get the idea of what I'm trying to get at. There's different ways you can optimize things.
Because is
It,
that because SND SC date and time is carrying date and time and the millisecond and minute
correct.
and
Yeah.
hours
Let's
is all
go.
stored
Let's go look.
for only a symbol one. Yeah,
Let's
gotcha.
let's go look. That's a very good question. The SC datetime is a structure. It's a class, and these are all the functions that are defined on it. So it has all of this functionality, and then it has all these internal um, it has a bunch of internal like members that also get set that are integers, floats, various other data types versus just the integer, which is just a primitive data type. It's tiny in comparison to a custom object like an SC datetime. So the skyscraper is the
Yeah,
SC datetime, if you will.
makes sense. Yeah, instead of loading all this data every time you're trying to receive it,
Exactly. And it
there's a lot
won't
of data to load. Yeah.
exactly. It won't make a noticeable difference for you on a 50 line study. It won't make a noticeable difference for you on a 500 line study. Maybe not even a 5,000 line study. Maybe. But if you if you change the patterns and practices which you develop your code with to use smarter, more compact and more efficient data types, overall your code will be cleaner, easier to debug, etc., etc. Like, um, and it adds up. It adds up. When you use complex data types over and over and over, it adds up eventually. And if you have a sprawling study, or it turns into multiple studies, or in my case, I work with automated trading systems all day. These things add up. So you want to be efficient and have it run as quickly as possible. Remember, Sierra is running your study every single chart update interval or tick, every single one. So you want to make this footprint of how heavy this code is, as light as possible, because you want it to run as quickly as possible, you know? Amazon's on highs.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense, man. That's great. Good to know. Really good to know.
Yep. Okay, let's go on. Mike's got a question. Let me grab this. Let's post this up here. Good morning, Mike.
Hello. Yeah, no, I can also provide clarity on that. So, like, I think I asked this question, kind of a question, like a couple weeks ago, and it was basically grabbing subgraphs from a different chart,
Okay.
and I'll share my screen real quick if that's okay.
Yeah, let me read through the question 1 second. When I try
Okay.
to refer to other subgraphs on a different chart, I get values for one and zero for the other. I use calculation precedence, a very low precedence level, um, but it's iffy. So, like, sometimes it'll work, sometimes I just get zeros. Got it. So, what we're seeing, what Mike's seeing is inconsistent subgraph values uh, randomly, basically. So, let's see, Mike, dude, were you able to share your screen? I don't have it
Oh,
up.
yeah, let me share it right now. Yeah.
And while you're doing that, I see a question from Steve and Mustache. I'm gonna just queue those up here as secondary questions while you get your thing spun up. There's Steve. Here's Mustache. I'm just putting those in here for later. And then you started your screen share. Let me bring that up here. Watch stream and pop that out.
Yeah, so
Let me get this up
essentially,
here. Can
yeah,
you?
so we share, like, I queued up this study over here, and I kind of I was referring to the MACD on both of these charts, and you can see like on the 15 it's showing the correct values, but for the 5 it's giving me zeros.
Let me pause you there, just so that
Yeah.
I can become you're oriented with your screen already, and I'm looking at it for the first time. So you have the NASDAQ, the NQ on
Hmm.
1 minute, 15 minute, and 5 minutes. So this is all the same underlying security, just different time frames. And then we have the price up here, and then we have an indicator down here. Okay, so this is
Yep.
the only subgraph on each of these charts. It's essentially the same chart, different time intervals, but laid out um, vertically here, three different ones. Okay,
Yep.
go ahead.
Yeah, and so, like when I was toying around with it, like sometimes when we populate it, like, oh, I mean, I did literally the same thing, and except I would get the values for the 15, but for the 5 it just keeps giving me 0. And sometimes when I like there are times, random times, it's just like it would work, and then it's just being very inconsistent. And when I asked the chat, they were telling me about how I need to input like calculation
Can you
precedence. And
control plus on that just a couple of times so it's a little bit visual, like it's just a little bit
oh,
harder?
yeah,
I'm getting
yes.
old, man. Thank you. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that now. Yep.
So they recommended, yeah, sorry about that. So they recommended that we use SC calculation precedence, very low precedence level. Um, but we're just not quite sure like what else we need to do to make it a little bit more consistent, or if this is even the problem.
hmm
So just any type of guidance on this would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting problem-solving thing. So the first thing, let's start off with the really basic stuff. Can you go back to Sierra? Um, let's do a sanity check on each of these three charts. So let's start on the far right side with the 5 minute. Can you go to the show us the settings or the studies that are applied on this 5 minute chart? So we just have one and it's study ID uh,
Yep.
1. Okay, and then let's do the same thing. This is just sanity checks just to make sure this has the same exact thing. Okay, great. And then
And then over here we go studies.
that
And then
one
we,
doesn't have a MACD. We don't. Okay, so this
yeah,
this
that's
is the one
referring
that
to,
running the thing that you're okay. And then so in here you are pointing to, so this is chart 4 over here. The 5 minute is called ID 4, and then the 15 minute is ID 2. So you have ID 4, and then you have ID 2. Now I see on here for this study you have two different MACDs on the 5 minute. What's that about?
So it's referring to like the green line and the purple line. So basically, we want to see like either the divergence in it or like which one's greater or which one's lesser. It's kind of what we're
So
aiming
you're
for here.
targeting not the study of the MACD. You're targeting the subgraph of
Yes.
that study of the MACD. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And so let's start on the one just above the input, the 5-minute MACD 12 subgraph value. Can you click on that one?
Which one?
The one right above you. Yep, click that one. So
Okay.
here we have NQ on the 5-minute with the MACD, and we are choosing subgraph 1 MACD. The one below it, what is that? The one below it is choosing subgraph 2, which is the
Two.
moving average. And then we have the same thing repeating on there. Okay, for the other chart, it's the exact same thing. So
Yep.
the actual raw MACD and then the moving average. Okay, so all those sanity checks look good. Let's close out of the study settings, and then
Okay.
let's go back to the code.
So
So here we are back in the code, and then can you jump to the spot where you are spitting out the values that you're seeing inconsistency?
yeah.
Where's the log print to the log? I want to start from there and work backwards actually.
So 5 MACD 12, 5 MACD 26.
Log message 5 MACD 12, 5 MACD 12. Oh, that's helpful. Yeah, thanks. Okay, let's isolate this to just the 5-minute one because you're seeing it wrong on both, right?
I'm seeing nothing for 5, but correct for 15.
Oh, oh. So let's look at this log then for a second. That's interesting. So for 5, you have blanks, but 15 is working every time.
Yes.
That is a big clue. So for those of you who are following along with this troubleshooting, uh, this is a big deal. The fact that the 5-minute is consistently showing zeros, the important word here is consistently. Look, we don't know what the problem is, right? We're completely Scooby doing this and just starting from the beginning. We don't know what the actual problem is, but this is a smoking gun right here. This is actually really good for the troubleshooting step because this is consistent. It's consistently wrong, which means that it's reproducible. And then this is consistently producing values, which is also reproducible. So this is actually a huge help. So we know that whatever is happening on the 5 is potentially different than whatever's happening on the 15. So can you go to the 5-minute, the log, the part in the code where you're logging 5? So where that's right here. Okay, so
Yep.
5 MACD 12 is grabbing this 5 MACD 12. And then this 5, can you highlight this and find all occurrences of 5 MACD 12? This, yeah, find all occurrences of that and highlight them. And then let's scroll up and can you find where that's getting set?
Yep.
It's getting set here. First subgraph array SC index 5 MACD 12. And where is first subgraph array coming from? First subgraph array is coming from here. You gotta be kidding me, Google. Seriously? We'll get back to that later. We'll get back to that later. Okay. First subgraph array is here, and this is a get study from chart using, and so then we're grabbing first subgraph value, get chart study subgraph values, and you're storing it into first subgraph array. Where is first subgraph array declared? It's declared right there. Excellent. Hold on one second. The screen got blurry. Gotta wait for
Yeah.
there we go. Okay, so that's there, and that's really it, isn't it? It's grabbing it by there, but not by there. Okay, I'd like you to do a sanity check for me, which
Okay.
is the precedence thing. So I'd like you to take, oops, holy shit, what did I just do? Sorry. I'd like you to take 348 and 349, or sorry,
Hmm.
no, 358, 358 and 359, and I'd like you to put them below 361. This is another sanity check. I don't know if this is going to change anything, but I'd like you to recompile this, and I'd like you to see if the other one goes to 0, and now we're getting values on 5. So we're still troubleshooting here. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
still
So
nothing.
we're still getting zeros on 5, which that tells me this is not a precedence thing then.
Oh.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let me ask you this. Were these charts, these two charts, the 5 and the 15, were they created at the same exact time using the duplicate chart feature?
We created these charts through like, sorry, so minus through right here, input add charts. So I think they were created at the same time. Maybe Alex, you can, a mustache trader, can say something.
Oh yeah, I just did the open chart for 2 different charts.
Open chart parameters. Yeah.
Let's take a look. Is there a reason you don't want to just set the chart book up to 5 and 15 and have that and not have to do any of this?
This was just the way that we saw to do it first, I think, so.
Can we turn off this functionality? Create, kill the 5-minute chart, and then make a duplicate of the 15. So, yeah, kill the 5. Make a dupe of the 15. Turn off the study itself. This on the 1 minute. Turn off this guy altogether. Yep. Make a duplicate of 15.
Chart.
It's chart duplicate chart.
Okay, gotcha. Chart.
On the right hand side.
There we go. Thank you.
And then set that to 5. And then go back to your 1. And then turn off that code that does the that chart spawning process. Is that
Oh,
disabled?
go set the default to no. It's
So
default to
you can
yes
add
right now.
it. You can add it to here. What is triggering that that does all that?
Okay. Let me recompile it real quick.
So what we're doing is we're systematically taking out variables to see if those affect the behavior one by one. And then here you have to reselect your, yep. So your 5-minute would be on chart 4, right?
Yep.
And your 15-minute is chart 2.
Oh, yeah. My bad. Yes, you're right. Chart 2. Yeah. Wait, what am I doing? Yes. Apologies.
And then that one's 4 and 4.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, let's see what we get with that. Interesting. Again, interesting. Okay, go back to the code. Let's look again. So that took out all of that out of the equation. That is not what is causing this, right? Let's go ahead back down to where we're spitting out that value, and we're going to work backwards again. Where is that spitting out that value? 5 MACD 12 for a subgraph array of SC index. Is this inside some kind of code block, or is this is this code that's in 366 to 370? Is this inside some kind of code block other than the main study function?
No, it's just
living in
here.
here. Okay.
Yeah, it's created for the first time here.
Does anything else modify this value after this point?
No. We only use it to reference like, can it be, can we short at this time on the 5, or can we short this on the 15? There's no manipulation.
It's just changing an input setting. Okay, so 5.
Does this, wait, quick question.
Yeah.
When we just put these values here, does it matter like if it's like this? Please.
Let's see, that's chart ID. This is indicator or study ID, and then that's subgraph ID. Is that
Yeah.
correct? And like one of these is not zero based, and one of them is zero based index, right?
Yeah, like is it like hard coded, or is it
Yeah,
just like,
that should be fine. I don't
oh,
think that's an issue, but let's. Yeah, I think that's fine the way that this is. 5-minute active service, such as subgraph. It's like identical all the way across. Okay. Nothing else is changing here. Is full calculation. What does this section do? Chart number.
Oh,
Chart
so
number.
that just makes sure that it only, because that's for adding the new charts and the studies to the charts, so it only does it on the first, like when you first do it, I guess.
Are we sure we're not getting in here for anything? Can we put a can you
No,
put if
because then the
false in here and make sure we don't, or do we need this code block?
don't think so.
no, because that's just for adding charts and studies,
Okay.
so we can completely.
I want to explicitly remove it from the processing.
Okay.
Just to remove that. I don't think that's the solution, but let's go back to the code here and scroll down for me a little bit more. And then where are our first subgraph array? First subgraph array. Third subgraph array. Fourth subgraph, fifth, sixth.
I thought maybe if I created, maybe it was like, I don't know. I was trying with 5th and 6th instead of 1st and 2nd. I just kind of left it in there.
That shouldn't make any. We already flipped these, right? So we already tried changing the order, so that's not it either. What is it about this? It's the same MACD on both, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Can you do me a favor and go to the study settings?
Here.
No, so compile this latest and then spin it up. I want to try something.
Sure.
And then open the study settings kind of to the side so we can see the log at the same time. Can you change the two 5-minute things to be pointing also at chart number 2?
Sure.
I want to see if it doesn't get them either.
It's
okay.
fine.
That's interesting, right? Try just for giggles. Try changing the 15-minute ones to chart number 4 just to see what happens. Interesting. That's interesting, right? So the functionality is, it looks like the code is fine. My voice just reached an octave I didn't know I could hit. The code looks fine. We're getting some blurry stuff here, but that might just be because of feed. But okay, so we can see the code is working fine because when we swapped what we're pointing at, it's correctly getting those values. Let's go ahead and on this one where it's pointing to chart number 4, is there any other subgraphs under the MACD selector?
Yes.
Try. Just see what happens if you, yeah, mess around. I'm just curious, will it get anything? No. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. And it only does it on that 5 minute.
Yep.
But the 5 minute we copied from the 15. It's an exact copy, so there's no different setups. Let's go, this is confusing. Let me look up the documentation on precedence. ACSIL variables, precedence. This is a read-write integer variable. It sets the precedence level. It can be set to 3 possible values. Standard means your study gets calculated relative to other studies on the same chart that your custom study is applied to based on its position in the studies to graph list for the chart. Low, it means it'll get calculated after all the other studies, but that's specific to the chart, not to the chart book. Very low, it'll get calculated after all of the other ones on the chart. You'd only want to do this if you're using a function like getting study array. It is not necessary to set low precedence when you're internally calculating study formulas. For further information, go to here, related issues. There are numerous other issues that can happen. We move up and down. Following studies have a low calculation precedence. How calculation precedence is determined. So the part that gets me is that we can repeat and replicate that behavior on a different chart, but just by switching the input. So it's almost like that one chart. What is the deal with that one chart?
I wish I knew.
Okay, let's do another sanity check. Where's Discord? Discord. Right here. Go to change your 5 minute to a 10 minute. Change it to a 30 minute. Interesting.
1 hour?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's other. And what if you do a 1 minute? Oh. Look at that.
But the value's really wrong.
Yeah. It's wrong. Well, because we remember we're pointing at something else, at a different subgraph.
Okay.
Jump back into the study settings and reset those.
Okay.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Look at that. Now change it to a 5 minute. 3 minute. 4 minute. Switch to seconds. What is 3 minutes times 60 seconds? 180 seconds. Can you go 180 seconds? Can you go 190 seconds? Can you go 200 seconds? Go 199 seconds. 195 seconds. 198 seconds. 97 seconds, or 197.
96.
196.
So
195 again?
Yep.
I am baffled. I have absolutely no idea why this is happening. But I think we found what the problem is. I think this is you need to record this and then post on Sierra's forum, saying basically the way I would phrase the question is that I am observing that changing the time frame on one of the charts impacts the ability to grab the subgraphs from that chart and successfully. And
Oh.
I can isolate it. So if I'm at 195 seconds, it's fine. If I go to 196, I can't.
Oh, I see.
And then ask for what that might be. Don't ask for a solution. Ask for like what might that be related to, and like what to investigate further in relation to that.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know why this is happening. I have no idea.
Can you use it on volume?
The
Did you
volume.
try volume?
Oh, like if you try non-time based?
V and whatever 500.
20R.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So maybe something
Interesting.
wrong with the time coding when you code, maybe.
There is no time really related. I mean, there's just variable names.
ADR doesn't work.
Go to chart settings for me one real briefly. Let's see. Can you go to start at symbol menu? Okay, you are on symbol. Go to data limiting. Intraday number of days to load, 200. Can you make it not 200 but make it 10? And then switch it to a 5-minute. What's the period of the MACD?
12 and 26.
Can you change the period of the MACD?
Yes.
Make it quicker, so lower numbers.
Okay. Let's do 3.
3 and 5 or something.
5, 9, 2, 1. Sure.
Try 1 and 1 and 1.
Oh, maybe try 2. Whoops.
1, 2, and
still nothing. 2. 2.
Huh. Oh, no, that didn't. Interesting. Okay.
We just broke it all together.
Yeah, put the fast on 1. Try try that.
Oh.
No. And then now if you switch the time interval down to 3-minute, it works. Still?
No.
Interesting. So that's interesting.
Is the MACD inheriting the chart settings?
This might not even be Sierra. This might be something with the MACD and your global settings. Can you go back to MACD settings on there? And then switch it to something long, like 20 and 40 and... Go back to the chart settings and switch it back to 100 days instead of 10.
Oh.
I think the issue you're seeing isn't actually a bug in Sierra. I think you're seeing an issue with the relationship of your MACD fetching history and chart data being available. I would examine, so here's what I would examine. I would examine very closely the relationship between the number of days you're loading, the time interval of the chart, and the MACD settings, and whether or not if you get all of those, like if you have actual data to be able to fetch there. That's what I would.
Okay. I will play around with it. Thank you.
I can see that your MACD is 32,000 and the 5-minute and 15-minute is less than that. So that could be the issue.
Oh, I see.
See what I mean? Maybe, I'm not sure, but they're looking different values. That could be why.
200. Okay.
Okay, let's
Okay. I'll toy around with the time if we narrowed it down to this. I'll come back to this. I
yeah,
think it took
yeah.
enough time.
What a peculiar, what a just odd um odd thing. Um, am I still streaming?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so mustache, I'm gonna take Steve first, and then there. Okay, I'm a novice, but I want to do a project. What's the best way to approach it? I want to produce a chart showing all symbols, equity curve, for all trades over time. So the time scale would be trade close to timestamp and price would be P&L. An external source file trading platform in CSV format. I noticed I use CS for Thank you in advance. So, Steve, there's two things. One, ideas for projects is very good, but I would choose a different idea, and it's for two reasons. One, this, all of this here is already available, oftentimes for free, through a number. We actually had a thread here in the coding channel. I think it's still open. It's called like Trading Journal something something. People are asking about how to be able to render P&L and all that stuff. There's so many platforms out there that even offer, like, if you do less than 100 trades a month or something, you can import your stuff in CSV format. There's so many free options out there that are already built out. It just doesn't make sense to, try to reinvent the wheel on this one. So I would recommend, if you want to do that, I would go, because this is not really, you're trying to put something into Sierra chart that it really isn't built for. It's not built for building a trading performance dashboard inside the chart window. That's really bending the main purpose of what it's for. But I still encourage you to start a project, but I would choose a different project. So yeah, no, that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but I would choose a different project. What symbol, like what do you trade? Futures, equities, forex? What do you trade, Steve?
Hi, yes, I'm futures mainly, but I also trade contracts for difference, obviously from other brokers. So I was trying to bring them all into the same platform
Gotcha. Okay.
reporting, and it was also
So
for testing as well, looking at the sort of back testing strategies, etc.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, one of the challenges is knowing what your platform that you're using, what it does, what it can do, and what it is built to do versus what stuff it's not built to do. And you bend it when you need to, but if you don't need to, I would recommend not bending it
That makes
to
sense.
that. I would encourage you, though, to continue looking for other projects that maybe are related to the best projects. People are asking me, how do I start coding? How do I get started with C++? How do I, I'm new. I don't really know what I'm doing. What do I do? How do I get started? The best thing that I can say is necessity is the mother of innovation. Um, Find something that you need an answer to in your own trading. Find something that you need to automate. Find something you're doing manually that is bite-sized that um, you could build a project out of and start working on that. I think everybody who's trading discretionarily or using their mouse has something in their process, something that could be automated that they're doing right now in a manual way. And if you just examine your flow of how you're trading, what you're looking at, etc., I'm sure you can identify something that's smaller, bite-sized, because that's a pretty big thing to bite off on your, if you're new to coding, that's a big thing to bite off. I would start with something smaller and find part of that process and try to automate it, struggle through it, go through it, come to the coding session, say, I'm trying to do this, it's not working. you know, where do I go to try to make it work better or jump that hurdle that's facing me? Those are the good projects, and those actually, in my experience, show growth. Why? Because necessity is the mother of innovation. Because
Okay.
if you need to have that for your trading flow, you're going to keep working on it, and you're going to say, oh, I don't know what the C++, I don't know how to build this in C++. You're going to go Google it. You're going to go find something that you didn't even know. You're going to say, oh, wow, I didn't even know I could do this. Let me add that to my repertoire. You learn stuff, and that's why the entire reason that I am where I am today with regards to my professional and coding and everything like that is because of this. Because there was something that I did not have that I wanted to automate, and no one else provided a solution for it, so I knew I had to build it myself. And so I went and learned how to build it myself based on what the problem is, breaking down the problem into chunks, building out those chunks, and then bringing it all together. So that's my advice.
That's great advice. Thank you very much. And
Of
thank
course.
you for your channel.
Yeah, thanks. Mustache, you're asking, first of all, I gotta ask, is that actually you? Is that your mustache? How can I use an input to
Yes.
change colors? It is?
Yes.
That's awesome. That is epic, mustache. Um, how can I use an input to change colors? So the question would be, what are you trying to change colors of?
So it's just I also posted an update in there of what I was using right now.
Oh, let me grab
But
that.
it's just for I'm using a draw rectangle tool, and for the color draw.color, I was trying to use that input so I could just change the color instead of a specific one.
Update for the question, I'm using this. It builds, but it doesn't show up in the settings window. Name, color value. Ah, if you use set color, it won't build. So an this is an input that this is. I don't have the whole code, but this is an input, you said.
Yes.
Isn't this a function call rather than a value you set? Shouldn't this be color value like this, RGB, whatever, or you could say like color red, etc.
Oh.
Shouldn't this be let me double check. Let's go look at the documentation together. ACSIL, inputs, input, color value. Ah, no, no, no. This is for getting the color. That's why. Or wait. Yeah, for setting the color on an input, you do want to use set color, and it is a function call. So you want to use instead, input zone 1, whatever, set color of, and then you can either use a pre-built color like color red, or you can use what you were doing here. You just need to tuck it inside
Okay.
here.
So I need to not have it after the
255.
equal sign, just have it in the okay. I see
Yep,
what
and
you're talking
use instead of using color value, use set color.
now. Okay.
Actually, this needs another parenthesis at the back end to close that parenthesis, because this is also a function call at the standard library level, I believe. So.
Yep, I tried
Okay.
everything except taking the equal sign away. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that's gonna be it for us here today. Any final last questions before we drop
Just a
for the weekend?
quickly, Frozen, sorry, about my study. So that will use only microsecond. If I go like 1 second, it will be the same thing, or do I need to add anything extra?
You're saying if you were
Because I can't go
referencing
farther than 9.
milliseconds, right?
Yeah, I can't go farther than 950. If I go like 999 or 1500 millisecond, it will not work.
Correct. I think it only goes up to 999. What do you? So if you want more than 1,000 milliseconds, why not just use seconds?
So if I use second, I can use 1.5, for example, or 1500 will work.
No, No, you
Either.
could use you could calculate that value by saying you could declare that input if you wanted the input to be like 1500 milliseconds, essentially 1.5. You know, that's when you should stop using the SC datetime. That's a good example because the SC datetime might not be able to support that level of granularity and switch to what I was saying here with this. Because
Yeah.
if you use this, you can check any amount of milliseconds. So you could re-implement this instead of using an SC datetime. You could use this and see what the actual millisecond value of the last time that ran, and then make your interval be an integer of the number of milliseconds, right? So
Right.
your input would become how many milliseconds um, is my interval, or however you want to phrase it. And you could put an integer, this is an integer, of 1500, which represents milliseconds, and then you could use this approach that we talked about earlier to execute on that input.
Count from the last record of the
Exactly.
millisecond. I see what you mean.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
And
that
then you
will not
don't need to
apply
store.
with that SC date and time. Does not apply there. Is no function for it.
I'd have to check the docs specifically.
Yeah, because it's not working. I guess that's the reason. It's not working above 999.
Let's look. I haven't actually. I don't think I've ever tried to that level of.
Milliseconds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I always approach it from a different way.
Yeah, I couldn't
So I've
find it on
never.
your videos. That's the reason I went that way.
Yeah, I always go the other way, and that's the reason I do that is because of that memory footprint thing that we talked about earlier, just
Yeah.
making it more performance minded. But it is valid ranges. Okay, here you go. Valid ranges, milliseconds, 0 through 999. It's explicitly stated in the documentation for us that yeah, you can only go through 99 to 999. So in order to do what you're trying to do, you will need to refactor your code to use a different approach. You can still do it, and it's pretty straightforward. You just need to think about it in a slightly different way, like we talked about earlier.
So I have to implement a second and millisecond function to either
I
one
don't
of
think
them
so.
available.
I don't think so, because there's a function called get as. Really? There's only get as double? Yeah, you want to use this. You want to use get as double, and then store this double. That would work too.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I will look at it.
And then you would compare what the current time is, get as double, against what your last reset time was, which is get as double. And then if that difference between the two is greater than your input's number of milliseconds, you know you need to run it again. You see what I mean?
Yeah. There's a little bit of twist, but I will give it a go. I'm not very good at coding, but I will do my best and I'll post it here. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's just a different way to think about solving the problem. You know, if you can't, sometimes the best way through the door is not straight through, but you know, go out the back and come in through the front. So.
Yeah, got you, man. Thanks.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you for the questions, and we will see each other next week. Everybody have a good weekend.
Good weekend, mate.
End
Thanks.
stream. Thank you.